Good evening. It's Thursday, August 4th, and this is your off-the-cusp hockey outlet that, like this sport, you just can't get enough of. This is Pucknology Writers Room. Tonight's topics include Tyson Barrie and Danny DeKeyser's new deals, the continued troubles of Evander Kane, how we would have fixed the NHL, breaking down the Arizona Coyotes, and any other topics that you'd like to discuss. If you are watching live on YouTube and want to be a part of this show, you may use the chat box to send us your thoughts, questions, or simply make fun of us. You can also send your tweets to @Pucknology using the hashtag PucknologyWR. If you haven't already been scared away and decide that you actually enjoy this show, whether you're watching on Pucknology.net or YouTube or listening to us on SoundCloud, Google Play, or iTunes, thank you for tuning in and help us out. Please subscribe to our channel. So allow me to introduce tonight's panel. First off, making his return to Pucknology Writers Room, we have Felix Chow. Felix, how you doing this evening?
What up, guys? I'm doing good.
All right. And next off, we have our resident, I guess, analyst or analytics analyst. I don't really know how that all works, but we have Drew Weber with us this evening.
What's up? I prefer analytics analyst.
Analytics analyst. All right. Well, that's going to really trip me up here. But next off, of course, is me. I'm Kevin Lacey, and I'm 7 for 7 here on Pucknology Writers Room somehow. So if you guys want to kick me off, please tell me so, and I will gladly leave. Last but not least, of course, is your host of Pucknology's Writers Room. Please welcome Ian Reed.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Writers Room 7. Sorry we took a week off. There's not really a whole lot going on. So obviously I thought that based on who was available and my own desire to put my butt in the seat and sit here in the heat and talk hockey, I said, no. So I apologize for that, but we're back. Starting off, let's do some news of the day or the days since we recorded last. First thing is Kelly McCrimmon will join the Las Vegas front office. He joins GM George McPhee. I believe the title for him is assistant GM. So what do you guys think of Kelly McCrimmon joining the thing? For those who don't know, Kelly McCrimmon is the owner / GM / coach of the Brandon Wheat Kings. Very, very successful team in the Western Hockey League, basically a perennial contender. Kevin, I'll start with you.
I don't know too much about Kelly McCrimmon other than he is someone who has been very much sought after by other NHL clubs over the last, not just Toronto last year, but other clubs over the past many years. I do know that his brother Brad McCrimmon was the coach of Lokomotiv, and he was unfortunately has passed away, but he was a very accomplished head coach during his time. He was looking to be one of the next great NHL coaches. So I have a lot of faith in Las Vegas bringing in his brother Kelly to handle a lot of front-end operations. It should be a good fit.
Drew.
I don't think it's a bad move at all. I mean, like you said, he's done basically everything for the Wheat Kings, and that team has had success. They won the WHL championship last year. They made it to the finals the years before that. And even though he won't be coaching the team, he knows what talent looks like. He can see potential in players and knows how to bring out the best of them. So I think that's going to be a huge asset for Las Vegas.
Felix.
I don't really know much about him either, but judging from what I've heard so far, he definitely does sound like the right guy for Vegas. Someone who's experienced, knows how to win, how to generate success. So, good move.
Yeah, I really Vegas hasn't done a ton of moves so far, but early on, I don't mind George McPhee. I think George McPhee was a good hire to get started, and then bringing a guy like Kelly McCrimmon in, who's not only has just a vast knowledge of junior hockey from obviously with his involvement in the Western Hockey League, being in the Memorial Cup last year, he's gonna be a great asset to the scouting department as well, I think. So definitely a good hire in my opinion.
You have to give a lot of credit to Bill Foley, the owner of the new Las Vegas franchise, for the fact that he is really surrounding himself with a lot of good hockey people and not just a lot of good business people, as some franchise franchises might like to have.
So
It's definitely
you're
a step
saying
in the right direction.
so you're saying he's not just surrounding himself like another owner who went to West Point and just surrounding himself with West Point guys?
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, Danny DeKeyser, Detroit Red Wings. He signed a nice contract extension, a 6-year, $5 million AAV. Any thoughts on the new contract for Danny DeKeyser? Drew, go ahead.
I think the term is fine, having that 6-year term, but I feel like the annual average was just a little bit higher than I would have liked. He could show up 20 minutes a night. He's been on the positive side of the plus minus, and he does a pretty good job of getting his shots through. I think he has like a 50% shots through rate or something like that from the point. But I'm not really sold on his possession. Me being the analytics guy, I got to look at that. He's been on the negative side of the Corsi relative, which means Detroit pretty much controls more shot attempts without him on the ice than they do with him. But he's not terrible. He's a good second pairing guy, but I don't think he's worth $5 million. I would have gone 4.5, with the comparable being Jonas Brodin, who just signed for 6 by 4.1. So I think $4.5 million would have been okay, which isn't much of a difference, but when you're Detroit and you're already over the cap and you got a lot of people hitting free agency next season, every dollar matters.
Yeah, that's fair. Felix.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself, but I think I guess overall the contract is looks okay. I mean, like, he doesn't look like too bad of a player. I guess I would agree with Drew in the just maybe take the term of the money just a little bit. Just take the money, the costs, just a little bit down. But other than that, I think it's fine.
I think that Drew brings up a pretty good point about the salary point. He's making $5 million, or his new contract is going to be $5 million annual. And you look at a guy like Nicholas Kronwall, who is making a little bit less than that. Now, mind you, Kronwall is also a little bit older. Well, actually, he's significantly older than DeKeyser. Yeah. But do you guys really think that DeKeyser is that much more important to the Red Wings than Kronwall is? Because I look at DeKeyser and I'm like, he's a nice defensive defenseman, and he's a good playmaking defenseman, but $5 million. But then you could also compare him to Jonathan Ericsson, who's making $750,000 less than him, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely an upgrade over Jonathan Ericsson, who's simply a defensive defenseman.
See, the thing I was thinking about when I was kind of looking at all this was, right now, DeKeyser, if he were on the Sharks, he'd be the second highest paid defenseman. But in terms of overall career skill, he's like number 5.
Wow, okay.
I mean, I'd put him behind our top 4. But, Detroit has that need. There are fairly thin on the blue line compared to other teams like Nashville or St. Louis or San Jose.
Thin on the blue line compared to Nashville.
So maybe $5 million is the going price for DeKeyser for Detroit, but I wouldn't have paid $5 million for him.
I think what they would, for me, this is a contract where you kind of, you're taking a gamble that he's going to, because I feel like Danny DeKeyser has continuously improved over the course of his career, and he's only 26, so you're hitting the prime of your career at this point, and I think that maybe Detroit's, maybe they're gambling a little that he's going to be able to, continue to improve, and maybe he's worth that money by the end of it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard when you look at, and it's hard because, like you said, you look at Sharks contracts, and but if you measure everything by Vlasic, everything looks terrible as far as money is concerned. So yeah, I think I think the dollar amount might be a little high, but I think they're banking on that he will be worth it by the end of the deal, and whether he will be or not, I'm not sold. That personally wouldn't have been my bet, but I guess I can kind of see that logic behind it.
One of the things that I'm a little concerned about with DeKeyser's contract being $5 million a season is the fact that they are already $5 million pretty much $5 million over the salary cap right now.
After trading Datsuk too, which is insane.
Yeah, exactly. And they still have about 15 NHL forwards, around their roster here. They could send a couple of guys down, but still, the guys they probably would send down are not going to significantly impact their salary cap. So on one end, Detroit needed the defenseman, but on the other end, they need to shed salary pretty badly. I don't know if DeKaiser is the guy, though. I look at another guy they extended, which was Darren Helm, which was before the UFA. He's making nearly $4 million, and he's an awesome third-line player, but he's a third-line player. Do you really want all that money tied up in your really speedy third-line player?
Yeah. Oh, here's another question I guess I have, because honestly I don't know the answer, which just write that down. Here's the thing, like if not DeKaiser, let's say if not DeKaiser, which I think a 26-year-old defenseman, obviously something that, homegrown you want to hold on to, who would you take? Who do you replace Danny DeKaiser with if you're Detroit?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. Exactly. I don't think there's an answer to that question. I think when you really look at it, I feel like, you're in a rock and a hard place. And let's be honest. I mean, Detroit, now that the salary cap's in, Detroit used to overpay for players all the time. And Detroit's not exactly I'm not saying like all of Detroit. Obviously, there's nicer areas of Detroit, but it's not exactly the nicest, most awesomest area to be in these days. And Rocket in the chat just says Iraq ? I'm sure it's better than Iraq, but not by much. Not by much.
I wonder if that was used as a bargaining chip though by DeKaiser's agent to be like, if you don't have DeKaiser, who are you going to have?
I feel like there wasn't. I don't feel like there was like a ton of defensemen are hard. I mean, you don't just sign defensemen generally. It's hard to trade for defensemen, and you gotta sometimes pay the guys that are homegrown. And I think being in Detroit, I think unfortunately now you have to overpay. And the problem with Detroit is that there's a salary cap now, so they can't just overpay. I mean, you gotta remember Detroit. This is a team that back when they were the dominant team, they were spending what teams are spending now with the cap. Like they had $70 million teams back then. Like it's crazy to think. All right, so moving on. Oh, the Evander Kane saga.
Evander!
Yeah, what is with Evander Kane? He's just trouble. And this is a guy I've kind of gone to bat for a couple of times, and I've since stopped. Again, this is a guy who faces charges. Again, just misdemeanor stuff. Counts of harassment and trespassing, and there's like 5 misdemeanors he's currently charged with. And then the more prickly thing is he's also now facing a civil lawsuit for an assault dating back to last December, where Kane was investigated for sexual assault. Problem here, not problem, but the facts as they are, is the police did investigate and found no wrongdoing in their investigation. Now, it's worth noting, before I get completely ravaged in the chat, that in the justice system, it is very hard to get a sexual assault case to trial. Most DAs won't run with it unless it's a slam dunk case. So oftentimes, civil litigation is generally the only way to get anything, like any sort of justice, if you call it justice. And I know the other half is going to be people that are going to be like, oh, Beach is just doing it for the money, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure that happens too. But I just think it's important to note that a lot of sexual assault cases go civil because it's very, very hard to get it to criminal trial.
And that has been Law 101.
Yes.
By Ian Reid.
Well, I think it's important to clarify, though. I think that's an important note. So, Drew, what's your thoughts on this whole Evander Kane nonsense, and what future do you see for him in Buffalo or in the league, for that matter?
Actually, have me go last on this one, because I feel like mine's more appropriate if I go last.
Okay. Well, now you just screwed me all up. Kevin, go ahead.
Okay, so I can't remember if I joked about this off air or on air, but I know at the start of the summer I mentioned, let's just have Evander Kane be a weekly topic because it's guaranteed to always bring some news. And I was only half joking about this, and yet I feel like every week when I go on TSN's website, there's always something about Evander Kane. So first, Evander, please stop. Just stop. But yeah, it's always something with him. Even dating back to the last lockout when he got kicked off of his KHL team in Minsk because he was out of shape and uncoordinated, and it's just one thing after another. And the one thing that I wonder is if he's still with Buffalo by the end of the season, as great of a hockey player as he is, does he get exposed in the expansion draft?
Oh, do you even want him if you're Vegas, though?
No, well, that's the other thing is that, like, that's the last thing Evander Kane needs is distractions in Las Vegas. So,
let me chime in on that for a second, because I know the one thing that I always say about Vegas when people are like, oh, but they're gambling and the drugs and the sex, and I'm like, what NHL city can't you find that in? Like let's be honest. Like, you think you can't find those things in Los Angeles? You can't find those things in New York? Come on, give me a break. But for Evander Kane, that's a legit concern.
No.
Like, I feel like you just have extra things that could do. Like, you know what Evander Kane needs? Maybe Columbus. Although maybe that's a college town, maybe not.
God, there's always something. Like, that's Evander, please stop, because I think you're an amazing hockey player, and I'm sure you're a really cool guy, but don't get yourself in these situations.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh gosh, yeah. Quickly my thoughts on this. Like, I mean, like we said, he's a good hockey player, and obviously he has skill. But I mean, for me, when I look at this from like a morality standpoint, like, I mean, even if they did want to expose or trade or do whatever with him, like let him go, who the hell would want him? I mean, who would want that personality? Honestly.
You know, I think there's some teams that do have the ability to deal with that kind of player. I would love to see him with Tortorella and Columbus again.
That's true.
You know, I think that under the right conditions, I think he might be able to be okay. But I mean, he frankly just has some growing up to do. And when I think about him in Winnipeg, and there's times where I defend in Winnipeg because I just, you know, I thought, like, you know, a guy like Gary Lawless is just all over him just from the get-go. I mean, before there was, you know, even smoke, Gary Lawless was all over him. And I always thought that he got kind of like a rough, you know, he kind of got a rough deal in Winnipeg in some sort. Some of it was absolutely earned, but some of it was just really propped up by the Winnipeg media. So but now, I mean, it's just, you can't defend him anymore at this point. Drew, go ahead.
I'm not really going to comment on the allegations themselves kind of thing. I want to talk about more, how does this affect the image of the NHL kind of thing? Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at Slava Voinov, you look at Semyon Varlamov, you look at Stolen Richards with the drug charges, you look at Patrick Kane, and then you look at Evander Kane. It looks like it makes the NHL look like a bunch of abusers, drug addicts, and criminals, whether or not they were convicted, and that doesn't look good for the game.
No.
But the thing is the media does play a part in it, because you look at Patrick Kane, you know, you go that whole off season where you have Patrick Kane facing these sexual assault charges, and he was never convicted of it, but his name has become synonymous with, you know, those charges and that whole, you know, controversy because of it. And it's really impacted his image. And then you're the NHL trying to expand this game, being like, look at this star player, but, you know, the outlets are all saying, well, he was just accused of sexual assault kind of thing. So, I don't know, I think there's an issue with the media kind of jumping the gun on reporting these things. Granted, they are juicy news and they get clicks and stuff like that.
The Twitter age, though. I mean, everyone's a journalist at this point, including me. No, stretch. But, you know, I think that's the problem with with Twitter in general, and just to sidestep from hockey for a minute, this is a big problem. Whenever something major goes down, I mean, you just go on Twitter and you get 18 different stories of what happened, whether it's unsubstantiated rumor or not. And then by the end of it, it just gets so hard to look at, to try and go back and figure out, okay, what was reality and what was not, and what was not reality about it. And I think that's really, really hard in this age. And obviously no one wants to get scooped. Nobody wants to be the last to report something. So I think it's just, that's just a sign of the times, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, and just to jump in real quick, I think I completely agree with all that. And honestly, about the image of the NHL, I really do think that this, things of like this nature do affect, the image. I mean, obviously they've got a whole lot already going on with the concussion lawsuits and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, and they're trying to, and like you said, they're trying to expand the game. So I mean, in the long, the game, obviously hockey is, we all love hockey, we all love watching the sport, we all love talking about it and all that. But I mean, of course, there are also, civil, all these civil issues that also, go on, and that, that I think really kind of sets the NHL back a little bit. But of course, I mean, I mean, for some topics, like such as LGBT and all that kind of stuff, they've done a pretty good job of representing that community. But overall, I think they could do a lot better job of kind of just taking on the civil issues, just to, yeah.
But I think, and here's the problem I have with this, and maybe this is kind of crass, but like, isn't, at least hockey's like, I know you don't want to be in the news for that, but at least hockey's in the news. Like, when you look, and I'm not saying that, more players should go get accused of sexual assault so that the NHL can make the news cycle. I'm just saying, though, when you compare it to other sports, look at the NFL, look at the NBA, the NHL's problems are so tiny and insignificant compared to some of the things that happen in other sports that are doing just fine in the States last time I checked. Last time I checked, the NFL is still a multi-bajillion, zillion, bajillion, gajillion dollar industry. Last time I checked, the NBA was still doing quite well.
No, you do have a good point with that, and obviously we all know that the NFL players, they're all, I mean, they're just, basically they're worse off than the NHL players are, and so in that retrospect, you do have a point there.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say like that's a good thing, but I think that I know that the image of the hockey player is, this supposed to be this polite Canadian white guy who just doesn't do anything and and just plays hockey. But I just feel like it's a lot of it up here is because it's again it's the Twitter age. It's where everything gets out. It's where things that probably would have gotten maybe a slight mention on a news feed it goes completely viral and goes all over. And I just sometimes I wonder if it's really as bad as it's made out to be, because the media needs to have stuff to talk about, especially right now, because I mean we're doing a good job doing a show here, but let's be honest, there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Austin Matthews hasn't signed in Toronto 3 weeks after he was drafted. Oh no!
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, that is what happens. That is kind of what happens when you don't have it's kind of the news cycle's been kind of dry, and so people obviously get paid to talk about stuff and whatnot, and people need to talk about certain things. So here we are.
All right. So to wrap this up, is Evander Kane in Buffalo at the end of the season? Drew.
Yes, I'll say yes.
Kevin.
Oh, I'm going to say no, because TSN and Rogers need someone to talk about at the trade deadline. And so...
They'll talk anyway. It's not like they won't. It's not like they won't talk just because he's not actually going to go somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it'll happen.
Felix.
Yeah, I think Evander Kane is he's not going to be in Buffalo by the end of the season. I don't know. It just doesn't look good for him. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like he's gone. I feel like, and the worst part is for Buffalo, I feel like he's gone for pennies on the dollar at this point. I don't see, with all the talent they have on that team and all the kids they have, especially because it's such a young team, the last thing they need in that locker room is a Vander Kane, in my opinion. So I think he's gone.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Tyson Barrie's got all kinds of rumors floating around him. Kevin, I'm going to let you elaborate on this.
Yeah, I don't understand it really. He's an offensive defenseman for sure, very mobile player, a guy we've been hearing about for years, being like the next huge defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche. And if I recall, Adrian Dater, shout out to you, Adrian. Adrian Dater, I believe, was also saying that he didn't really understand all these rumors too. Yet, nonetheless, the rumors were swirling about, oh, Colorado doesn't want to go to arbitration. They're going to move him. They might move him to Edmonton. This was going back to even Taylor Hall before he was moved to the New Jersey Devils. And I don't get it, because how many years did we hear the Colorado Avalanche talk about they need a puck-moving defenseman? Well, they grew, like Stephon Elliott is not cutting it, so they need a puck-moving defenseman, and then they grew one in Tyson Barrie, and now they're going to move him? Like, that just really makes absolutely no sense. I don't know where these rumors came from. And then he went to arbitration, and, I mean, what did the guy put up? Like 16 goals, 13 goals? 13 goals. 13 goals, 49 points this season. His plus-minus was not very good, but he was still the guy for Colorado. Like, he pretty much had all of the leverage in that arbitration case, which is pretty much why I think he settled. Like, they went to arbitration. He was the only guy that did not go to arbitration, and yet he did end up settling out of court, so to speak.
Right.
But going back to what Adrian Dater said, the Avs allegedly were looking for $4.25 million, and Barrie was asking for $6 million per season, and from what General Manager posted up, he got 5.5. So I guess the Avalanche realized, oh yeah, Barrie really does have all the leverage on this. And
does it make sense? But it seems like the rumors, like they get a deal done, and the rumors still haven't died, and that's the puzzling part.
Yeah.
Because that's not a terrible money for Tyson Barrie, in my opinion. Like,
no,
5.5 is a pretty good chunk of change. 4 years. I mean, the term's right, the money's right. Like, I don't see the issue. I mean, it's 25-year-old defenseman again. Like, this
the only thing that
seems like going right.
The only thing that I can think of is, oh, he's 5'10" and 190. He's not big enough. He's not Brent Burns and 6'5", and blah blah blah. Yeah, but if he has the same production, does it really matter what size he is? Like,
anyone else want to jump in before I diatribe off on this a little bit?
If you want to go ahead, Felix.
Go ahead. Okay, fine. So honestly, just real quick, I think, honestly, personally, I haven't seen the post arbitration rumors on Barrie, but I mean, I do agree that it's, I mean, he's not a Brent Burns. Obviously, obviously he's not as big, but I mean, the production, I think he's good. He's a really good serviceable defenseman. I think he's he's worth the money that he got, and so I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the rumors, but I don't get why there are still rumors out there.
Yeah, I was talking with my boys, Hockey Jerk and Wug Dilson,
Nice.
and it's like, if you let Tyson Barrie walk, or if you traded him, there's a gaping hole in your decor. I mean, let's be real here. Colorado has two defensemen that are legitimately top 4, and that's Tyson Barrie and Eric Johnson. Yeah. Everyone else is barely top 4 or bottom pair. So you can't let him walk for no matter what his cost was, really. And it's like, yes, his possession numbers aren't great and his plus minus isn't great, like what Kevin was talking about, but you play for Colorado. I mean, this team's been in the bottom 10 for 5 out of the last 6 years. What would you expect, kind of thing? So, yeah, there is no way
they would build better through the draft, is what I would expect.
Yeah, well, we thought that with Edmonton, too, and look what happened.
Oh, touche.
You're jumping ahead to what I was going to bring up.
Here's my problem with here's my problem with Colorado is let's be honest, the Patrick Waugh thing's been basically a disaster.
Yeah.
And the thing that would concern me if I'm Joe Sakic is a big part of me thinks that when Waz's contract is done, he's done. He's walking away. I don't think he's coming back. I think that they'll go on on mutual terms. They're going to make sure that Patrick comes out of there smelling like roses. The problem is that if you're trying to move Tyson Barrie because he is not a Patrick Waugh guy, like you have to really strongly consider what you're doing there, because if Patrick Waugh is not your coach going forward, then why would you move a player that the next coach is going to go, damn, I wish I had that player still. And I think that's a big concern that I would have if I was an Avs fan, as well as the team just being awful.
And you know what a great example of that is Montreal with PK Subban.
Good point.
Subban and the coach didn't get along from what I heard, and that could have been why Subban got shipped out.
Yeah, the whole Montreal thing is a whole circus.
But so, Montreal's always been a circus, though. As long as I can, I was a fan of, before the Sharks came in the league, that was my team, and they've always been a disaster as far as like stuff like that goes. They've just gotten away with it better in previous years, because when you talk about teams and if you go back in the history of the league, and I don't want to go completely derailed here, but Montreal had some pretty favorable rules in their favor when it came to where players came from, and they got some really good players, so they could afford to have a little drama here and still make it okay. Obviously Patrick Waugh was the first incident where it really blew up in their face, and this PK Subban thing's gonna beyond blow up in their face, but previous to that, they were so stacked it didn't matter. Winning fixes everything.
I have a question for you guys. It's a little off topic, but
that's what we do here.
Who is the worst coach? Because I am not a fan of Patrick Waugh as a coach whatsoever. Who is the worst coach in the NHL, Patrick Waugh or Wayne Gretzky? Because they're so beloved as players, and yet Wayne Gretzky was not a good coach, and I don't think Patrick Waugh's that much better.
Did Gretzky really have much more to work with than Waugh? Like both of these coaches didn't really have much to work with. I just feel like that's the big problem in hockey, and Hockey Jerk kind of alluded to this earlier, is that you have, these guys get hired because of who they are and not what they are. And unfortunately, a great player doesn't necessarily make for a great coach. I think a very heady guy, like obviously Gretzky's an incredibly smart hockey guy, but can he coach in a way, or obviously he couldn't coach in a way where, what he sees, because no one saw the ice better than Gretzky. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. How do you dumb that down for, somebody that's not Wayne Gretzky?
And that Coyotes team wasn't that great either.
No, and that Coyotes team wasn't that great. Here's the other thing. Just actually, it's funny that Kevin brought that up, because I saw this on the, I think it was the Score put out a list of coaches, and they ranked the coaches. I think Peter DeBoer was 11th on the list, and they had Tortorella ranked dead last. Which to me is completely insane. I understand that Tortorella is a crazy mofo, and sometimes he says and does some pretty stupid things, but I don't think he's the worst coach in the league.
No, I don't either.
I don't think he's even close to the worst coach
middle
in the league.
road at worst.
It's I think a thing of what have you done for me lately, and he did not have any success with Vancouver. But is that Tortorella's fault? I don't know. We'll talk about the Canucks in a future.
Yes, that's coming.
Pucknology Writers Room, but I do want to actually. May I name drop again here, real quick?
Yeah, why not? We're completely derailed at this point, so just run with it.
Earlier in the season, I was talking with Liam McHugh of NBC Sports, and he also was of the feeling of Peter DeBoer is actually a really good coach, and he also thought the same of John Tortorella. And even I said, I'm not a big Peter DeBoer fan, but he obviously knew what was up, because the Sharks obviously made it to the Cup Finals. So, John Tortorella is a good guy.
Devil's advocate. So did the Devils the first year he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Just in the chat, how did the Score evaluate the ranking of coaches? You know what? I didn't really look at the rankings. I kind of just skimmed through them. And when guys coming back in the league, like guys like that have just been hired, like Glenn Gulletson and guy that coached in Tampa with the face all messed up, Guy Boucher, we're ranked ahead of John Tortorella. I think that's a problem. All right, I'm gonna put this back on the tracks now. Jimmy Vesey, obviously still unsigned. August 15th, obviously approaching where he could go. I'm surprised he didn't take a deal with Buffalo. Man, that would solve. That would. I think if VC signed, then that makes the Evander Kane thing all that much more easier to deal with. Where do you guys think that he ends up? I think the obvious answer is probably Boston. But do you rule out Toronto at this point? I guess I'll start with Kevin.
My feeling on Jimmy Vesey is simply, does anyone think he won't sign with Boston? Because I think he's going to Boston. I think the writing's been on the wall since, I don't know, last year or sometime. Mm-hmm. The Nashville thing didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but whatever. If you don't want to go to the team, then you don't want to go to the team. I'm with you, Ian. I thought Buffalo was an awesome fit for Jimmy Vesey, and so when that trade happened for a third-round pick, I believe,
yes.
I thought, wow, that came out of nowhere, but that's a place I could see VC actually going to.
Yeah,
and then clearly it's not going to happen. And then now we've got all the rumor mongers online going, oh, well, the Stan Bowman is in attendance watching him, and so he's going to Chicago. No, he's not going to Chicago. And then, his brother's on Toronto, and sorry, I don't think he's going to Toronto either. I think he's going to Boston. What do you guys think?
Boston was, the one on my radar. Like you said, when Buffalo traded that third to get him, it was that made sense. Like, you played with, or you get to play with Jack Eichel kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it would really help that team. Like, that team is going places and trending upwards, unlike Boston that's, like, going backwards right now. But, if he wants to play in his hometown, that's what he's going to do. He's going to play in Boston. Otherwise, I think he would have gone to Buffalo.
Yeah, Toronto I still think makes a lot of sense. I believe his father's also, is in the organization in Toronto. I believe he's a scout, I want to say. And Toronto's also another team trending up. Obviously, they're, Austin Matthews is going to help them. They've got a ton of young guys that, are probably going to be something in the NHL. Just a loaded cupboard, just like another team, just like Buffalo. But Buffalo, it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't sign a Buffalo. That team is going places, and I don't get it. Felix, I passed over you. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't really have much to comment on yet, but really, I think I'm just gonna go with you guys that he is gonna sign in Boston, because I that's where he fits the most. I think, at least that's what I think. So.
I don't really want to stay on this topics too long, because we are kind of, we did kind of derail, and now we're kind of running a little long on this first part. But I think my question is, and look, I have not really, for full disclosure, I haven't really seen VC play, but this is a lot. It seems like a lot of hype over a guy who hasn't played an NHL game yet. And maybe and if this was still, I guess you could have made the same argument a few weeks ago with Austin Matthews, that this is a lot of hype over a guy who's never played a game. But the guy was a first overall draft pick. Is there a little more hype here? Is this just the product of a very slow summer, Kevin?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of VC to make a fair comment as far as, well, he's not going to pan out or he is. There was, even though a lot of hype when he was drafted, that he fell a lot further than people thought he would. I would err on the side of caution, though, for the fact of, I think Justin Schultz makes the precedence for everything. Justin Schultz, he's this amazing guy. Oh, he's going to be a free agent, and then wah, wah. So you got to watch out. And I was watching another podcast actually recently, but the one the one you want to watch, folks, is Pucknology Writers Room. But I was listening to someone who's out of the Northeast, and he was saying,
"Fine, you can."
Actually, you know what? I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember what it was called anyway. It was a good podcast though, so I'll try and plug you next time. But he was thinking, is VC going to set the precedence of more NCAA guys leaving freshman sophomore year earlier than they really should to come to the NHL? And that got me thinking. But I do think there's a lot of hullabaloo about a guy that hasn't proven himself at all. And now he doesn't have to get entry level contract anymore, right? He can make hell of money. Oh, he does still? Okay.
He does still get an entry level. So it's not a money thing. I think that's what a lot of people, probably don't understand too, is they think it's a money thing, but it absolutely isn't. He's going to get an entry level deal. I believe his entry level deal can be shorter because he's a free agent, so he only has to do the European 1 year, I think, as opposed to 3. I could be wrong on that, but I want to say that he only has to do a 1 year entry level. But so that's really the only plus he has. So he will make money at some point, but he's got to show something, I guess, too. Felix, anything final? What do you think?
I think it's, I haven't seen him play either, but I think it could, based on, again, this is all based on what I've been hearing so far, I think it could very well be a combination of both, because, yes, it's been a slow summer, so not really much to talk about, but at the same time, like I said, I haven't seen him play either, so he could be good, he could be unproven, so I guess I'm leaning towards the middle ground here.
Okay, that's fair. Drew, anything else before we move on?
I'm not sure if he's being overhyped. There has been a lot of tension on him, like we've been saying. There hasn't been much news recently. But I think with the right pieces around him, he could be very good. And I don't even think it needs to be with completely experienced players. If he ends up on a team like Arizona or the Carolina Hurricanes, who are totally going to make the playoffs this year, guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, by the way. I am with you on that.
But, I think he could be a great core player in a young team that's towards the end of a rebuild kind of thing.
Yeah, so, no, I agree. That's why I think Buffalo makes sense.
Exactly. That's why Buffalo, I feel like, would have been perfect for him.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. So something else we're going to kind of do over the course of the summer is just kind of spitball things that we would change and maybe fix, air quotes, fix the NHL. So I think we're going to just cover a couple of things on this, and we're just going to this will be a kind of a reoccurring segment as we drag our butts through the summer towards the World Cup. So let's start with, what is there any rules that you would change, or any rules you hear that might get changed that you would leave alone? I'll start with Drew.
Rule changes: get rid of the frickin' trapezoid. That's been such a controversial issue since they started it, and it's
Marty Turco and Marty Brodeur retired. It's fine. You can get rid of it now.
But it's you want more scoring in the league, and you want a faster game. But here you are, you're taking away the ability of goaltenders who are good at moving the puck, and you're also preventing the opportunity for goaltenders to turn the puck over. So it's it works both ways. If you let them outside of the trapezoid, you're gonna increase scoring for both sides potentially, off of turnovers or off of good outlet passes. So there's no reason for it. No one takes the penalty anyway. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I've seen the number of trapezoid penalties I've seen. I think I can count on my hand 3. And then I put up 2 fingers because that's what I do when we're on video. Go ahead, Felix. Any rules that you would change? Any rules that you think shouldn't be changed? What do you got?
Yeah, I've seen this. I think I saw this, and this being brought up during, I think, the playoffs. The puck over glass stuff. I know a lot of people. I know there have been people who have said that it's a stupid rule. It should just be an icing, not a penalty, and all that kind of stuff. And I can kind of see that. Puck over glass, it's obviously it's an infraction, but is it penalty worthy, or should it just be treated like an icing, as I've been seeing?
I want to chime in on this one.
Okay.
You know what I like about the puck over glass rule?
What?
It's black or white. It's black and white. There's no maybe. There's no going to Toronto. There's no it's not like a discretionary call.
Yeah.
It's black and white. It's either you call it or you don't. And for that, I like it because I wish more rules were that cut and dry in the NHL and not this like, going back to the video replay and nonsense and where it was like, oh, you were, a millimeter of your skate was offside, so we're gonna call back this goal. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, first off, as far as the puck over glass goes, I do like the rule, but as someone who recently flipped the puck over the glass, all because I got a brand new stick and was getting used to the curve and the puck just went flying out of the play, I am glad I did not get a 2-minute penalty for that.
Oh, come on, Kevin. We all know it's because you're thinking of me.
I feel like that's what practice is for, Kevin.
No, that's the thing. Those guys practice, and I don't, which is why I'm playing at the level that I am. And so, anyway, I'm getting way off topic here. The one rule that I would change, actually, that I've heard isn't really as significant as you would think, is the overtime point. I don't necessarily mind the 3-point game, so to speak, because I think that the shootout is a total skills competition and takes away from the team aspect. But if you look at Major League Baseball, for example, you don't get a half game in the standings for losing in the 19th inning. You get a loss. And so I feel like at the very least, teams that lose in overtime should just get a loss regardless. But from what someone else online, I can't remember, someone in the chat was telling me earlier, that actually doesn't have that much of an effect on the point totals overall.
No,
so
it really didn't. All it did, I wrote an article about this on Pucknology.net earlier in the year. And what I found was that all it really did was it didn't really change the rankings all that much. I think Vancouver got completely decimated by changing it to everything being a 3-point game. But I think other than Vancouver was the only team that really fell. The playoff standings were basically the same. There's just more space between the teams. And some of the teams that were bad actually looked bad in the standings instead of looking better because they, everything's so compressed together. But other than that, it really had no difference. And I am completely with you. I am all for if one game's worth 3 points, they should all be worth 3 points. And 3 regulation win, 3-2-1 system, right? 3 points for regulation win, no point for the other. 2 points for an overtime win, and 1 point for loser, because that's how the NHL wants to do it. And I think that works fine. But overall in the standings, it didn't really make much of a difference. There's a website, you can Google this. There's another website that also does this and has track of what the standings would look like under different point systems, and it really doesn't change very much at all. It's once you actually see it, you get a lot less heated about it. Something for me, I'm actually not changing a rule. I want to keep a rule in because this is something that gets talked about a lot, and I understand it from a safety perspective, but leave the damn red line out of the game.
Yes.
The idea that they want to put the red line back in the game, and I understand there's some really smart hockey people that are way smarter than I am that want to put the red line back in, and I understand it, but at the same time, if as a fan, do I want to see an odd man rush or a face-off? Odd man rush every time. No one wants to see that damn face-off. Nobody.
Right.
So I think that's something, and obviously without going into a huge rant, because I did it 100 times during the season, they need to figure out this replay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of the other things I was going to bring up is when they do coaches' challenges and they do that replay, if it's like an obvious this is a good goal kind of thing, I think you should give them a delay of game penalty. And it's like, because that's going to discourage the coaches from just wasting that coach's challenge and, kill like 5 minutes of game time or of TV time. It's like that doesn't interest people. Looking at a freaking clean goal 18 times for no reason because the coach is like, hey, I want a break kind of thing. And it's like, if you give them the delay of game penalty, what's the last thing you want to do after you get scored on? Freaking take a penalty. So I feel like that would discourage it. It's not black and white at all. It's very...
I think that's the problem, and I think the problem here's some of the problems. It's actually a good topic, so we can run with this a little bit. When you look at it, here's my problem. My problem is the offside calls. because some of these offside calls are so the margin of error is so tiny, and it would help if they just changed the bloody rule with the crossing the blue line. That they just need to change that rule where but your skate was on the ice or wasn't on the ice or whatever. I don't even care at this point. They just need to fix that rule so that if you're onside, you're onside. But I agree with you. I mean, it's something that the coaches did abuse. The coaches, these offside calls were stupid, and they slow down the game. And nothing is better than going from a freaking 5-minute goal review to a 3-minute TV timeout because that's exactly it kills the momentum of the game. I agree.
Right.
Go ahead.
And I do want to. I do want to add to what you said about the whole offside rule. I think, I mean, not only is it you're kind of killing the attention of the game, but I mean, for those who are new to this sport, I mean, we already have a ton of rules which is already making the game complex enough. We don't need to add in more things to to have people go like, okay, so what's going on now? And so I mean, it's just we don't need to make things more complicated than they should be. So that's just my point.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's something to be said for that, for trying to rope in the casual fan. Now look, I'm a fan. First and foremost, I'm a fan. So when the Sharks get scored on and someone was offside, yes, I'm gonna scream at my monitor about it. But you know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be fine.
Right.
I'm not gonna get upset because if only they had video review again. Like I'm over the delay of the game, and it's always nice when it works in your team's favor, but I think when you look at overall the impact on the game, it's been bad. It's been abused by the coaches.
I agree.
And I get that people want to make it right. And I understand to get it right, but at the same time, if we're trying to get it right, aren't we trying to increase scoring? Isn't that the big crisis right now? We don't have goals. We don't have enough goals. The game's boring. We don't have enough goals. I think the game's fine, personally. I don't think you need to have a 6-7 game to have an exciting hockey matchup. Like a 7-6 game doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be exciting. It could be an absolute gong show and not enjoyable at all. And a 1-0 game can be good. Somebody talk.
I mean, if the eye can't figure out if it was offsides or not in the middle of the play, did it really matter?
Right.
That's it. And I wish I said that, because that is all that needs to be said.
No, it's true. It's true. It's totally true.
All right. Let's
let's fix one more thing in the game.
Let's fix one more thing.
Let's start marketing some of these so-called lower-end franchises here, like the Arizona Coyotes, which is our next topic.
Yes.
Nice.
And the Carolina Hurricanes.
That's a good segue. We're definitely going to talk about more things that we would do. I think next week we'll touch a little bit on supplemental discipline and a few other things. But Vince asking in the chat before we move on, are there any new AHL rules that are being tested for the NHL? I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I think that
I would say there was one about like line changes or something like that.
Oh, really?
I don't remember what it was though.
There was an icing change too, and now, like, of course, I'm drawing a complete mental blank on that, but there was an icing change in the AHL for this upcoming season.
Did the AHL not also implement? I don't think it's for testing for the NHL, but they did implement a fighting rule that's very similar to
I
hockey.
actually think that is going to be implemented in the NHL, although, I mean, are there any fighters anymore or any players that fight 10 times in the NHL each season anymore? I'm not sure on that, but
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the fighting rule, it's hard because, I am I'm in a weird space on fighting where I like it, but I like it under certain situations. I don't like the staged fight.
No way.
Sorry, the icing thing?
Yes.
And not take a timeout after the icing.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. So,
Sorry.
No, I know. We'll get back to this another show, because we are kind of running a little bit long here, so I don't want to completely shaft the Coyotes like the league does on a regular basis.
Oh!
Damn.
See, a couple of Coyotes fans retweeted me about the show today, and so that's for you guys, because we appreciate you watching us here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a Coyotes fan and you're watching, I mean, if you're an any fan and you're watching, obviously we appreciate it. This show specifically, especially this show, we really try to, talk about hockey in general and not just the Sharks.
Right.
So, I mean, anyone who chimes in and listens to the show and chimes in, obviously, super appreciated, and subscribe subscribe on iTunes and all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so Coyotes preview. I might be missing some names here, but here's what I quickly threw together. The Coyotes. Here's who's coming in. You got Luke Shen coming in, 2-year, $1.25 million AAV. You picked up prospect Anthony D'Angelo, who I'm who I like a lot if he can get his emotions together. You got Jamie McGinn coming in, 3-year, $3.3 million AAV. This is a guy that Sharks fans always complain about losing. And then you have Justin Peters coming in, probably to either play the backup role or maybe Louis Domingue gets to stay in the backup role. I'm not sure what the plan is there, or who's going to be playing in. I believe it's Tucson next year.
Yes.
Yes, new AHL team. Also, you obviously have John Chaika coming in as the new general manager, who we made fun of for trading Pokemon cards and whatnot when he first got hired. And then we went to the draft and we went, man, this guy is really smart, and we're really dumb for making fun of him.
Pokemon helped. It's because Pokemon Go came out, and I was like, he's back in his element.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
But clearly he's still, clearly this shows that you can play Pokemon Go and still have time to do a real job.
Yeah.
Putting that to bed. On the way out, you have Antoine Vermette, who was just bought out, actually just in the past couple of days. You have Joe Vitale, who went out in the trade with the Datsu contract. Alex Tanguay, Anders Lindback, and Don Maloney out as GM, obviously. What do you guys think of the move so far? And then we'll get into their prospects and whatnot. What do you guys think of the move so far? What do you think of the Coyotes?
I guess I'll go
ahead,
first.
Felix.
So I think so far the moves they've been pretty good, I think. You have basically from what I've read at least, more you have I think they also drafted Jacob Chikrin, right? And then
in the draft, yes.
Right. They drafted him, so he should help. He should help them. I think he's if I remember correctly, he's a defenseman. But
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, he should help. With the blue line. And of course, they also added Alex Goligoski to the blue line, which should also,
yes.
I think.
How did I miss that? I did mention it. Or did I mention it?
Okay.
It's on my list. I just might not have read it.
Anyway, but I think those two moves alone should, I think, kind of maybe improve a little the blue line a little bit. Obviously, this is still a young team. They're still taking making strides. So, but overall, I think I would say it's a step in the right direction.
Fair enough. Kevin.
I think that the Antoine Vermette buyout release, that caught me off guard because they just brought him in last offseason via free agency. And considering how young the Coyotes roster is, I'm really excited to watch the Coyotes. And I don't remember ever saying that, but I'm really excited to see the Coyotes next season. But are they wise to give up a veteran forward like Antoine Vermette when they have so much youth up front? And I don't know. And part of me was thinking, well, this might be a casualty of the expansion draft next year in the sense of the fact that he had a no movement clause. But they technically could have kept him for the year and then released him before the expansion draft. So it seemed like there was a bit of a statement there with Vermette. So is something going on there that I'm not aware of?
It's interesting that you mentioned. Sorry, and just real quick, it's interesting that you mentioned that because when I first read of the Vermette buyout, I think the initial statement was, or not the statement itself was that I keep not talking, but anyway, it was basically there was a statement, and he himself said that it was strictly like a business thing and not like a and not like anything from that he lost his game or anything like that. But that is a good question. Maybe there's something that the Coyotes are planning. I don't know.
You're actually feeding to my next point that I wanted to make. Is I feel like it is a statement because we've talked many of these shows about the Coyotes are always on a budget, and they're trying just to scrap the salary floor. And so some of the rumors I was hearing about Vermette is making too much to be a third or fourth line player, and that's why they got rid of him. Well, if they're worried about that, why did you get Pavel Datsyuk in the first place to beat the salary floor when Vermette is a serviceable player, a decent player? But then it also goes back to the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, Joel Quenneville chose to scratch him for much of the playoffs, and then now with the Coyotes, they're getting rid of him. I just wonder if there's something else going on there.
I actually have something to say.
No, go ahead.
The thing with Pavel Datsyuk is they only acquired his cap. They actually, if I remember correctly, they don't actually pay him anything. I forget what the reasoning for that was, but I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah.
The Vermette buyout just makes absolutely no sense because they had $6 million in space and they had a good roster coming in. He only had 1 year left on his deal, so I didn't see a reason for them to buy him out, kind of thing. It's like
it's got to be money.
It has to be, but even so, why would you elect to pay him for another year with the buyout rather than just take the hit this year? You're still $6 million under, even with his contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's got to be money. I like Antoine Vermette. I thought that, I mean, you moved him to Chicago. I think you got, Dahlbach in that deal, which is nice.
Something like that,
yeah. And then you bring him back, which, happens to rentals a lot. And I think that, I like him, and I agree. I think that that's the kind of, you can't just, ask Edmonton. You can't just have a bunch of kids running around. You need someone there to guide them, and I think Antoine Vermette would have been a good player to do that. From all accounts, Antoine Vermette is a class act, good guy in the locker room, good hockey guy.
Would you say he's a puppy?
He could be a puppy. He's not like a puppy. He's just a guy. Mike Brown's a puppy or a teddy bear. I don't look at him like that. Here's what I think though. I think he's a guy that could have, brought those kids along. But they have, this is a team. Like let's kind of segue into this though.
Yeah.
Here's some of their top prospects, and this guy's is scratching the surface. I could list prospects for for this team all night, and that's another thing too. They brought back Shane Doan, and Shane Doan's kind of there to guide the kids as well, the dirtiest, cleanest guy in the league. But look at their top prospects. You got Dylan Strome, who has a very good shot at making this team, and this is not even counting Max Domi or Anthony Duclair, who both played on the team last year. Christian Dvorak just won a Memorial Cup in London. Great center, probably could play wing as well. You have the aforementioned Anthony Giangelo, who, sorry about my dogs, who I think is a really good offensive defensive prospect. He has a little bit of, he needs to get his emotions under control in a game, because if he comes unglued, he becomes very unglued. And that's something that I've seen firsthand when he was playing junior here. You also have Jacob Chychrun you just took in the draft. I think Chychrun's going to take some time to develop, but he could turn into a good defenseman. I'm not a huge Chychrun guy, but I still, at the spot where they got him, and I mean, why not? You got Nick Merkley, who I really like. You got Brandon Perlini. You got, you got guys like that. I mean, and this is, and you got like Raleigh, and like it's just they're just stupid stacked on the prospect end. So when you look at that, I mean, they've got a lot of guys that could easily make this team out of camp next year. And Antoine Vermette, that is going to be a tough, that maybe he was going to have a tough time really, earning his spot on the roster. And when you look at when you're paying a guy 2.4, you're the Coyotes. You can't afford to just send someone to the AHL and pay them $2.4 million to sit in Tucson. You can't afford that when you're the Coyotes. So I think that maybe the buyout was the lesser of the evils, and you just hope that Shane Doan can be enough leadership in the room that the rest of these guys can still, get experience from, and and move on. I don't know. I also question, what are they going to do in back? Mike Smith is another big question mark to me. I'm not a big Mike Smith guy at all. I think that their goaltending is really going to decide whether this team is a playoff contender or just an improved team. Because if Mike Smith can't at least look somewhat like Mike Smith did a couple years ago, and your only answer is Justin Peters or Louis Domingue again, that's not great sailing, especially in the Pacific. Anyone else want to chime in on this while I?
Well, I
babble?
think regarding Chychrun, the nice thing that the Coyotes have is, yes, so they have a lot of inexperience on their forwards. Between all the guys you mentioned, there's also Tobias Reeder, Tyler Godet, Laurent Dauphin, who I just like saying that. But yeah, they've got a lot of guys, but a guy like Jacob Chychrun is supported by a lot of veteran NHL defensemen. I mean, because OEL is there, and they brought in Goligoski, which I think might be the best off-season move that any team has made, is bringing in Alex Goligoski. I think he's a really good two-way defenseman. And then they've got Murphy, Stone, they brought in Shen, who knows what's going to happen with Zbigniew Michalek, so Connaughton. I mean, I'm just going on with all these guys that could be NHLers. Chychrun there's a lot of room to wait on him. The thing of the defenseman, though, is I'm curious to see what format the Coyotes go with the expansion draft, because all of these forwards we've talked about with Strome and Dvorak and etc., they're not eligible for the expansion draft. And
That's right.
The Coyotes are going to have to expose a couple, and I'm guessing Brad Richardson's one, but they might have to expose a guy like Jordan Martinook just because of the fact that they have to have someone who plays 40 games.
Right.
Because I'm thinking with all the defensemen they've got, they're destined to be one of the 8 skaters, 1 goalie, rather than the 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, 1 goalie kind of thing. Because I'm thinking OEL has got to be protected, obviously. Goligoski, Stone's an unrestricted free agent after the year, but I'm sure he'll be re-signed. Murphy, Duclair. I didn't even mention Duclair. Is Duclair actually considered a 2-year pro at this point? Because he's not.
No, I don't. That's the thing. I think let me bring up general manager here quickly.
Okay, because the reason I asked that is because Duclair, if those of you watching aren't aware, Duclair played 18 games 2 years ago, but then he was sent back to juniors.
He might be, yeah.
So
he would have burned a year, and then next year would have been another year. Yeah,
right. He played more than 9 games. But he was also considered a rookie because he hadn't met that 25-game threshold.
But he's a pro because he burned the first year of his contract. So that's a year, and then last year was a year. So he's absolutely.
So Duclair has to be protected. On that. But
that's a no-brainer.
Still, there's a lot of forwards on the Coyotes that don't even qualify for the expansion draft. So that's an interesting thing to watch going forward.
Yeah, Anthony Duclair has to be protected. I think when you're looking at guys, you're looking at guys that you'd have to protect. Obviously, you're choosing guys like you're gonna have like McGinn, Hansel, Duclair. You're right. You might have to throw a guy like Martinook up there just because of or Tobias Reeder is another guy you could throw up there. I think that you might have to throw up just to keep yourself covered because of all the other little rules that have to do with the expansion draft. So, I think expansion draft's going to be very interesting, but I think that you're right. I think if I'm Arizona, I probably look at the 1 and 8, and there's only a few teams that I would look at the 1 and 8. I think Nashville has to, if you look at your defense. Defense score. So I think you go 1 and 8. I think the Sharks can do the other way because I think that they're going to lose a defenseman probably, but they can protect everything important. In my humble opinion. So. I think so. Where do you guys think the Coyotes finish? I guess I'll go first here. To me, I think the Coyotes. I think they're a bubble team. I don't think that they're in. They're definitely. This is a team that definitely should start trending up, though. My concern, unfortunately, with the Coyotes is goaltending. I'm not a big Mike Smith guy. I like Louis Domingue, but I don't think that, is Louis Domingue a starter at this point? No. So if he's, forced to try and be one again, I think the Coyotes are in a little bit of trouble. And I don't think, I think Justin Peters is a guy that could let Louis Domingue hang up on the NHL roster and play in Tucson. So I'm kind of curious to see how that dynamic works out. I think they're a bubble team, though. I'm not comfortable saying that they're a playoff team, unfortunately. I think Calgary's too improved. I think that the Sharks are not just because I'm a Sharks fan, but because they just went to the Stanley Cup final and they got better. So I think that the Sharks are obviously going to be a tough team to beat in the Pacific, and Calgary's going to be improved. And I don't think that I think Anaheim and LA could stumble a little bit, but they're not going to completely fall off the map.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arizona is a bubble team. I don't think they're gonna make it this year, although they are, like I said, they are taking strides and they are headed in the right direction. And yeah, the goaltending, I agree with the goaltending. I think, I think especially for me, and this may have just been just watching like a few games of him play, but I mean, obviously every goalie lets in soft goals, but he's kind of let in a little more than, a little more than I would have liked if I were a Coyotes fan. But goaltending is definitely going to be an issue, and so they're not going to be a playoff team, but I think they're a kind of a bubble team.
I agree they are a bubble team, and I know Hockey Jerk, our resident Arizona Coyotes sympathizer, isn't going to be happy with me because I picked the Hurricanes to make the playoffs, but not the Coyotes. But here's the thing, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be goaltending because, hell, Michael Leighton led the freaking Philadelphia Flyers to a Stanley Cup final, and look where he is now. What I think it is that San Jose's going to run away with the division because they should on paper. Anaheim's pretty much flat-lined. I didn't like them firing Boudreau and Brandon Carlyle, but I think they'll stay more or less steady from what they were. LA's trending downward, and Calgary's trending upward, and Arizona's trending upward. Now, the thing is that I think right now Calgary has the advantage on Arizona because they are more experienced. Now, I think 2 years out, Arizona's going to have that advantage because now they have more players in the cupboard that have been developed. So I think it's just because they aren't experienced enough yet that they won't be in the playoffs. But next year, I think they'd be a slam dunk.
Well, I think it goes to me next.
Yeah,
I have the Coyotes as a bubble team, but a bubble team that gets in. I think they will be the fourth team in the division, and I do think they will get that last wild card spot. Mike Smith is kind of an X factor there, but Mike Smith, he's a good enough goalie to get them there. Whether he's a good enough goalie to win them some playoff rounds, or heck, maybe Louis Domingue finally decides to be an NHL goalie. After all, he nearly bolted a year ago to Europe because he felt he wasn't going to get an opportunity. Maybe it's time for him to back up his own mouth and paycheck and be a number one goalie for the Coyotes. So I think they get in. But yeah, I like the Coyotes this year.
Yeah, and I'm getting crap in the chat because I didn't mention Clayton Keller, which is also another pick. Although I tried when I do this.
Oh, no biggie.
No biggie. You know what though? When I try to do this, I know I mentioned Chekrin though because like their back end is pretty deep and he's pretty far off too. I don't think Keller is all that close, to be honest. Like I like the pick and I think he's going to be a great player, but he's not close, and that's probably why I overlooked him. Plus, like I said, we could sit here and just name off Coyotes prospects all night, and that would be the whole show. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking.
And just off into the night.
See, Ian, the thing with being a prospects guy is people can call you out and stuff. When you're analytics, I'm the only person who knows what I'm talking about.
You got a really good point there, and I'm gonna let that sit. Kevin, you're the prospect right now.
Sweet.
Also, I just want to I think that's pretty much it on the Coyotes. I think regardless of what happens with the Coyotes this year, I feel like I hope that this is an exciting team to watch, and I hope Tippett doesn't unfund them. But I really like what Shaika is doing over there. I think that, this is a team that is something that, and I hate to say this, and I know I'm going to anger some Coyotes fans, but I just hope that when this team finally gets it all squared up, that the Coyotes fans are still there, that have suffered through everything that they've gone through, they're still able to enjoy the team. Because I think that would be an absolute travesty for them, because that team is, this team is on the rise. It's so loaded that it should be great at some point. And I just really, really, really want the people that have stuck through this team with all the junk and all the garbage and all the legal nonsense and obnoxious Canadian fans like myself, although not me specifically. I'm a very pro hockey and stupid places person. I just want this team to be there when it finally all comes together. Something else I want to mention before we kind of wander off in the Q&A. So if you have any Q&A questions, just hit us up in the Google chat, and we will definitely get back at you. I also want to say hello to, in the chat, Keegan McNally is in the chat. He is brand new to the Pucknology family. I tweeted out earlier that he should, that if you're not following Keegan, give him a shot. It's at Keegan_McNally. Yes.
McNally!
Yes, so he's going to be writing for Pucknology. He will probably join us on the show at some point as we rotate people around, except for Kevin, apparently. Kevin is my go-to guy.
I still have no idea why I keep getting brought back, but thank you.
That's because that's why I don't have to be the only prospect guy, and they can yell at you instead of me.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
All right, hey guys, any questions in the chat? Any questions? Come on, guys. You guys have something.
I have a question, actually, that we haven't discussed.
I have an answer. Maybe. Okay.
I mean, this goes back, well, it feels like it goes back like 6 months, but it only goes back 6 weeks. What did you think about the Calder, about Panarin winning the Calder? Because he was deserving, but come on. I hate when the analysts on TV go, Connor McDavid was the best rookie in the league, but Artemi Panarin deserved to win the Calder. Well, if McDavid's the best rookie in the league, that's kind of what the award is for.
Yeah.
Here's my thoughts on this. I think that it does kind of bother me when a guy comes over from Europe and plays pro hockey in Europe for like a couple of years and then comes over and, a guy's been playing with men and then, is up against a guy who's been playing with boys for the Calder. But the thing with McDavid was he was injured for a bajillion games. And yes, maybe if he was not injured, he would have put up X and Y numbers. But the reality of the situation is he was injured, and he didn't put up X and Y numbers. I look at Connor McDavid's an amazing player, and he's going to be, he doesn't need a Calder trophy to, we don't need to give him a Calder trophy to say Connor McDavid's a really good hockey player. He's going to be fine. He'll win stuff.
He addressed the Columbus Blue Jackets.
he'll win stuff over the course of his career. I promise you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Connor McBroken.
Connor McBroken.
Connor
McHavlat.
Wow.
By the way, speaking of Connor McBroken, I found out actually from a friend of mine that Brandon Manning, who's the guy who he tangled up with, will be playing in a ball hockey tournament this weekend with my buddy. So I guess good luck and watch out for Connor McDavid just flying in with a steel chair and taking it out.
Okay.
So from the chat, just going over a couple things in the chat before I have one thing I want to end on here, and then we'll pimp everyone's stuff and go home. Sleepy Mofo was asking, when will we do a preseason preview of the NHL season after the World Cup? Most likely, and that honestly sounds more of an After Dark show than a Writers Room show, although maybe we'll do our own little spin on it. But I'm sure After Dark's going to need something to jump on and kind of get their stuff rolling again. Our picks for each division conference playoff, man.
Oh, I haven't. My brain hasn't gone that far.
I will. I'm going to add that to my notes, and we will do that next week, just because I need some time to think, and I don't want just a bunch of dead air while I go.
Columbus, Tortorella, Columbus will win the Stanley Cup.
All right, so I'm writing it down right now.
With Evander Kane.
Cody James in the chat. McDavid's going to be huge, probably.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. And I think that is going to be awesome. All right. So, and Keegan saying that that Ghost would have been a good pick for the Calder. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Ghost Despair would have been a great pick for the
Despair.
Calder. Although I think when you really have to look at him, though, I think you have to look. He did play some really, really sheltered minutes. So, yeah.
A lot of
Okay.
overtime goals added to his total.
A lot of sheltered minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough about that. The story of the day that I didn't even know about, which I feel like a complete idiot now. Apparently, Logan Couture was asked for an autograph.
Oh yeah.
And the kid was devastated when he found out that Logan Couture was not Joe Pavelski.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I feel bad for that kid.
In his own hometown, no less. So,
no.
You know what, guys? This is why Logan Couture pouts a lot. Can we just give him some respect so he can pout less, please? Anybody, somebody, respect the man.
You can give him a puppy.
I think he needs a puppy. I think Vlasic should probably
donate a puppy.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is going completely off the rails now.
Let's take it home.
That's a good story though, and I'm glad that someone pointed this out to me because I somehow missed it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, Felix. You wrote something today actually that wasn't on Pucknology. Shame on you. Tell us where we can find you. Anything you've done recently.
Wait, sorry. What was the question? It was.
I shamed you for writing something for not.
No.
Not putting it on Pucknology, which is fine. I get it. We all have other things to do, right? I'm just messing with you.
I know.
Tell us where we can find you, and tell us, where you.
So basically, obviously, other than Pucknology, which I promise I will write a preview and other stuff soon. But I also write for another hockey blog called Ice Nation UK, which is basically it not only touches upon the NHL, but they also do like other leagues in international hockey. Like there's the Champions League, I think, which is in Great Britain and other kind of stuff. And so there are a lot of hockey writers there from all around the world. And so I just happen to be the one who is not only writing for about basically edited revised versions of the Sharks, but also the NHL in general. So yeah, that's where really mainly you can kind of find me and find my articles. So.
Are you still at Blades of Teal too?
Are
you still at Blades of Teal?
Yes, I am. But although I don't write, obviously because ever since I came here, I don't really write.
I know we kind of hog you.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, they understand too. So. That's what happens when you write for multiple blogs. You start running out of originality.
That's fair. I understand that. That's why I chose to write for one instead of multiple.
Yeah,
and I'm just messing with you.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Drew, tell us what's up.
All right, my name's Drew Weber. You can find me on Twitter at puck_over_glass. I was late on getting a Twitter name, so bear with me on that. And I post random shark stuff, and I think I'm funny sometimes.
Nice.
Kevin?
I am at Kevin Lacey 22. You can check out Pucknology.net here coming up. I will have the beginning of a 3-part series regarding the San Jose Barracuda for the upcoming season. Some things they need to change, some things that are coming in to change. So check that out. It will be up soon as some semantics are taken care of. So yes, other than that, and that Northeastern podcast I was talking about, that's Power Play with CJ. So there you go, CJ.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
I am Ian Reed. Last time I checked, you can find me on the Twitter machine at iReadPucknology, Reed spelled R-E-I-D, as my last name is. Basically, yeah, so you can find me there. You can also find me on Pucknology, obviously, as the director of content, so that's really just a glorified way of saying I direct a lot. I direct traffic, and not to the site apparently. You guys can find this show as well as any other show in audio format on our audio stream, which you can find on SoundCloud, you can find on iTunes, you can find on Google Play, as well as any other podcatcher. If you have a podcatcher that you use and you cannot get this podcast on it, let me know and I will make sure that you can find it. You can also subscribe to this channel to watch the Pucknology Writers Room. We should be back next week, barring anything crazy going on. Probably Thursday again. So look forward to that. And yes, we're going to actually write something on Pucknology soon, I promise. We all seem to have like stuff on the go. It's just getting it to the site. It's there's nothing going on. So bear with us. Other than that, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any... you guys can, if you want to tweet at us, let us know. If there's something that you think that we should be talking about on the Writers Room, let us know. We'd love to, get some user content, listener content, user content, whatever. Okay. We have gone way too far. James says Suicide Squad sucked in the chat, and that makes me sad. I'm going to go see it anyway. Have a good night.
Go ahead.